You know, there are some wingers who just look dangerous because they're smooth, they're silky, aesthetically pleasing, easy on the eye, all of that good stuff, right? Minty, he looks dangerous because everything he does feels like a problem. He's fast, he's direct, he wants to attack his fullback, and even when the action is not perfect, he still gives Brighton something most teams are desperate for, and that's chaos. That's probably the best way for me to describe him because he definitely is not the cleanest winger in the Premier League. He can rush things, he can over dribble, he can lose the ball trying to force the moment, but they don't need him to be perfect. They just need him to stretch the pitch, isolate defenders, carry the ball, press aggressively, and create panic in that final third. And I promise you, he does exactly that. Let's find out a little bit more about Yankuba Minteh. So Minty, 21-year-old Gambian winger, obviously, of course, playing for Brighton. He's mainly a right winger, left-footed, but he has appeared on that left-hand side. His career has moved relatively quickly. You know, he came through in Gambia, he moved to Odense, was then picked up by Newcastle, then went on loan to Feyenoord, and he actually played under Arne Slot. That Feyenoord year was very important for him, though, because he was still quite raw, which he kind of is now, but you could kind of see the tools. You know, he's got the pace, directness, the pressing, the ball carrying. He's a winger who wants to hurt teams instead of just looking neat on the ball. Then Brighton moved for him, and to be fair, as we all know with Brighton, they're a club that kind of just makes sense when it comes to players like this because they like those kind of profiles. Young player, high ceiling, already has top level athletic tools. Of course, still needs refinement, but he can do that there. And when you look at his Brighton season, the output, listen, it's not that great. Of course, last season, he only got 3 Premier League goals, 4 assists, 41 shots, 44 chances created, 11 big chances created, and he had 65 successful dribbles. Not perfect, but very interesting. And especially in a team like Brighton, I believe if he were to move on to the next level, you'd start seeing those numbers, especially the goals, you'd start to see those rise through the ranks. So, what type of a winger is he? Now, he's not really a winger who wants to try and slow the game down. You know, some wingers, they receive the ball, stand the defender up, wait for support, recycle possession, and they just keep the attack just clean and keeping it moving. Minty is different. He wants the ball early. He wants space in front of him. He wants the fullback isolated. That is why the right side suits him so well. From there, he can hold width, receive near the touchline, and drive at his man. Sometimes he goes outside and looks for the cross. Sometimes he shifts inside onto his left foot. Sometimes he just pushes the ball into space and backs himself to win the race. And of course, that's his biggest strength. He plays at a speed defenders do not enjoy. And the important thing is, he does not just dribble for the sake of dribbling. There's usually an action after it, whether it be a cross, a shot, a cutback, a run into the box, a pass across the face of goal. That is why his 37 successful crosses and 11 big chances created, it matters, man, because the eye test and the numbers are saying the same thing. He's not just running into traffic, he's trying to create something. Crossing is probably one of the more underrated parts of his game because when people talk about him, they normally start, of course, with his pace, which is obviously the main thing, and the dribbling. But when he makes that yard, he can put the ball into proper areas. He's not just floating crosses. He puts in actual dangerous balls into the 6-yard box or across the penalty area. And that is quite valuable for Brighton because they often want their wide players to stretch teams, then attack the box with numbers. But this is also where the weakness comes in because, as I mentioned before, he is still quite raw. His passing accuracy, not really there. Crossing accuracy, still not clean enough. And as I mentioned, he does get dispossessed. And I feel like with someone like him, that's kind of the trade-off. If you want a winger who constantly attacks his fullback, you're going to have to accept some waste. Think of a player like Jeremy Doku. When it comes to Minty, he had 65 successful dribbles at a 53.7% success rate, which is relatively strong, but he was also dispossessed 34 times. So there you're looking at it from the good and the bad because they come together. He creates chaos for defenders, but sometimes he creates chaos for himself. That is why his decision-making is the next step. Knowing when to take the man on, when to combine, when to recycle, when to attack the box, when to slow it down. That is what separates dangerous young wingers from top-level wide forwards. But the foundation is there, in my opinion, and physically, he's horrible to defend against. He can explode over short distances. He attacks space quickly. And he's not passive without the ball either. That is something that probably comes from that fine-yard spell on the slot. You know, he presses with aggression, he can jump onto fullbacks, he can force rush touches. And because he covers ground so quickly, defenders do not always have time to settle. Listen, modern wingers, they can't just be YouTube attackers. You know, they need to work, they need to press, they need to defend wide areas, they need to trap opponents when the team jumps. Minteh gives Brighton that. He's not just a luxury player, he's a pressing winger with serious transition threat. And his heat map tells you the same thing. He's active high and wide on the right. He gets into the final third. He gets into the box, 185 touches in the opposition box. It's not a small thing for a wide player. That tells you he's not just stuck to the touchline. He is arriving in dangerous areas. He's getting shots off. Most of them, of course, being left-footed, which, you know, makes sense. 37 of his 41 shots came with his left foot. So defenders know what he wants. The challenge, I believe, for Minteh is coming a little bit harder to read. If he adds more right foot threat, sharper cutbacks, and better timing on the final pass, then the profile, it changes very, very quickly, because the scary bit is he's already productive without being fully polished. And we know a few players like that in the Premier League, right? So, listen, when it comes to Minteh, I don't look at him as the finished article. I know everybody wants the finished article. Everybody wants the player who's ready today. But let's be honest, guys, there are few and far between. Those players are playing at the extreme top level. You know, the Vinicius Juniors, the Kylian Mbappes, the Elises, the Lamine Yamals, the Kvaratskhelia, the Dembele. Like, these are guys at the top level. So when it does come to wingers, especially, you're going to have to be a little bit more patient, I would say, because especially when you're looking at someone like Minteh, you know, he's still developing. The final ball, as I mentioned, can improve. Decision-making can improve. Shooting can become cleaner. And he still needs to learn when not to kind of force the action. But the raw materials, they're obvious. Speed, directness, dribbling, crossing, pressing, box threat. And most importantly, he's got the bravery, because he does not hide. So, of course, when you've got a player who can play both wings, he can beat a man, he can press, he can create chances. Not perfect, but I promise you, that's going to be a useful trait to have in your team. But listen, let me know what you guys think when it comes to Yankuba Minteh. Is he a player that you'd like to see play for your club going forward? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Keep the same energy, stay blessed, and I will catch you guys real soon. Peace.